One day, you'll realize the hardest truth of your life. No one is coming to rescue you. Not your family. Not your friends. Not your boss. Not the government. Not luck. Not motivation. The life you're waiting for will never arrive until you become the person who creates it yourself. Every excuse steals another day. Every delay gives your future away. This audiobook is not about feeling inspired. It's about becoming dangerous through responsibility. Because the moment you stop waiting is the moment your real life finally begins. Chapter 1. Accept the brutal truth. There is one sentence that separates people who change from people who spend their lives waiting to change. Reality doesn't owe you comfort. Read that again. Let it settle. Because most people spend years trying to escape this truth instead of building their lives upon it. Reality doesn't care what you hoped would happen. It doesn't care what you deserved. It doesn't care how unfair your childhood was, how difficult your circumstances are, or how many times you've been disappointed. Reality simply responds to what is true. And that is where your power begins. Acceptance is not surrender. It is the beginning of power. Most people misunderstand acceptance. They think accepting reality means giving up. They think it means lowering expectations or accepting defeat. But the opposite is true. You cannot solve a problem you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot improve a life you pretend is already fine. You cannot build strength while lying to yourself. That's the key. Transformation always begins with one uncomfortable decision: telling yourself the truth. Maybe your finances are a mess. Maybe your body is weaker than it should be. Maybe you've wasted years scrolling, procrastinating, and making promises you'll never keep. Maybe your relationships are falling apart because you've avoided difficult conversations. Maybe you've become comfortable blaming everyone except yourself. These truths hurt. But pain is not the enemy. Denial is. Reality doesn't owe you comfort. Look around. Every successful person you admire reached a moment where excuses stopped working. There came a day when they looked directly at the facts and said, "This is where I am." Not where they wished they were. Not where they should have been. Not where they hoped to become someday. Where they actually stood. That moment changed everything. Because once reality becomes clear, decisions become clear. You have a choice. Imagine someone trapped in a job they hate. Every morning they complain about the company, the manager, the salary, and the long hours. Every evening they promise themselves they'll leave. But months become years. Years become decades. Nothing changes. Why? Because hope replaced action. They kept waiting for the perfect opportunity. They waited for the economy to improve. They waited until they felt more confident. They waited for someone to notice their potential. Meanwhile, life continued without asking permission. Reality rewarded the people who applied for jobs. Reality rewarded the people who learned new skills after work. Reality rewarded the people who accepted temporary discomfort to create permanent freedom. Reality doesn't negotiate. Reality responds. Acceptance is not surrender. It is the beginning of power. Now think about health. Millions of people know exactly what they should do. Walk more. Sleep earlier. Eat better. Exercise consistently. None of this is secret knowledge, yet countless people convince themselves tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. Then one doctor's appointment changes everything. Suddenly, reality becomes impossible to ignore. But reality had been speaking for years. The body always tells the truth. The scale tells the truth. Your energy tells the truth. Your habits tell the truth. Reality doesn't owe you comfort. You have a choice. The same principle appears in relationships. Some people stay in relationships that have been emotionally empty for years. Not because they are happy, because they are afraid. Afraid of loneliness, afraid of change, afraid of uncertainty. So they negotiate with reality. It's not that bad. They'll change eventually. This is just a rough season. Sometimes those statements are true. Often they are not. Acceptance means seeing the relationship exactly as it is, not as you wish it were. Only then can you make an intelligent decision. That's the key. The greatest prison is not failure. The greatest prison is false hope without action. Hope has value, but only when it moves your feet. Hope without action becomes sedation. It allows you to feel like progress is coming while nothing actually changes. That is dangerous, because time never pauses while you wait. Days pass. Years disappear. Life quietly moves forward. Reality doesn't owe you comfort. Many people spend enormous energy trying to explain why their lives are difficult. They explain their parents. They explain the economy. They explain bad luck. They explain unfair bosses. They explain toxic people. Some of those explanations are completely valid, but explanations do not produce results. Responsibility does. You have a choice. Notice the difference. One person says, "Life isn't fair." Another says, "Life isn't fair, so I must become stronger." Same reality, different response, different future. It's not about fairness. It's about discipline. It's not about perfect circumstances. It's about consistent action. It's not about wishing. It's about building. That's the key. There is something strangely freeing about accepting responsibility. The moment you stop arguing with reality, your energy becomes available for improvement. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" you begin asking, "What can I do today?" That question changes everything, because today's actions create tomorrow's reality, not today's complaints, not today's excuses, today's actions. Acceptance is not surrender. It is the beginning of power. Think about a builder preparing to construct a house. Before laying the first brick, the builder measures the land exactly as it is, not how they wish it looked, not how it appeared years ago, exactly as it exists today. Only accurate measurements produce a stable foundation. Your life works the same way. If your measurements are false, your future will collapse. If your self-assessment is honest, your future becomes solid. Reality is not your enemy. Reality is your map. Ignore the map, and you become lost. Study the map, and you can choose a better direction. You have a choice. Every morning you wake up with two options. You can negotiate with reality, or you can build from it. One creates frustration. The other creates progress. Remember this whenever life feels overwhelming. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to become extraordinary overnight. You only have to stop lying to yourself. Tell the truth. Face the facts. Accept where you stand. Then move. Reality doesn't owe you comfort. Acceptance is not surrender. It is the beginning of power. You have a choice. This entire audiobook rests upon that decision. No one is coming to rescue the person who refuses to see reality. But the moment you accept responsibility for where you are, you become capable of creating where you will go. You have accepted the truth. Now it's time to stop waiting for someone else to approve your future. Chapter 2. Stop waiting for permission. There is an invisible prison that traps millions of adults. It has no walls, no locks, no guards, yet it controls careers, relationships, dreams, and entire lives. That prison is waiting for permission. Most people never notice they're doing it. They wait for permission to start a business, permission to change careers, permission to become healthier, permission to speak up, permission to leave a toxic relationship, permission to believe they are capable of something greater. They don't call it permission. They call it timing. They call it preparation. They call it being realistic. But beneath every excuse is the same hidden question. Do you think I'm ready? The world stays silent because no one is coming to approve your future. That is one of the hardest truths you'll ever hear, and one of the most liberating. From the day you're born, you're taught to seek approval. As a child, you ask your parents. As a student, you ask your teachers. As an employee, you ask your manager. You spend years learning that someone else decides when you may proceed. That system works in school. It does not work in life. Life rewards initiative, not permission. That's the key. Some people spend decades waiting for someone to recognize their potential. They hope their boss notices their effort. They hope their family finally believes in them. They hope their friends encourage them. They hope society validates their choices. Meanwhile, the years disappear. Dreams slowly become regrets, not because they lacked talent, because they waited for approval that was never coming. No one is coming to approve your future. Understand this clearly. People are often too busy trying to solve their own problems to validate yours. They are worried about their bills, their children, their careers, their fears. Your dream is not their responsibility. And that is not cruel. It is reality. You have a choice. You can spend your life asking whether people believe in you, or you can become someone whose actions make belief irrelevant. History is filled with people who started long before they were accepted. Entrepreneurs launched businesses from garages while everyone told them it was impossible. Athletes trained before sunrise while nobody watched. Artists filled notebooks with ideas that no one would ever see. Writers finished entire books before receiving a single compliment. They all shared one characteristic. They moved first. Recognition came later. Success is almost never approved in advance. It is respected afterward. That's the key. Imagine a young entrepreneur with an idea. Friends tell him it's risky. Family members encourage him to find a stable job. Neighbors quietly assume he'll fail. He has two choices. He can collect opinions, or he can collect experience. If he waits until everyone agrees, he will never begin, because people usually support success only after they see it working. You don't need their permission. The same is true for athletes. Nobody applauds the runner waking up at 5 in the morning. Nobody celebrates the lonely workouts. Nobody notices the discipline behind closed doors. The applause arrives after the victory. The medals arrive after thousands of invisible repetitions. The public sees the finish line. They never see the mornings when quitting would have been easier. Discipline begins before applause. Confidence arrives after repetition. Start before confidence arrives. Many people tell themselves they will act once they feel ready. That day almost never comes. Confidence is not the starting point. Confidence is the reward. Think about learning to swim. No amount of reading removes the fear of water. Eventually, you must step in. Think about public speaking. You don't become confident before your first speech. You become confident because you survive your first speech. The same pattern repeats everywhere. Business, fitness, leadership, relationships. Courage always comes after movement, never before. Start before confidence arrives. That sentence alone can change your life, because most people have reversed the order. They believe they need certainty before action. Reality says action creates certainty. You have a choice. Consider the artist who dreams of exhibiting their work. For years, they keep their paintings hidden. They're not good enough. I need one more course. I need better equipment. I'll start next year. Years pass. The paintings remain hidden. Another artist, equally imperfect, shares their work today. They receive criticism. They improve. They grow. 5 years later, one has experience. The other has excuses. Talent mattered less than willingness. It's not about perfection. It's about courage. It's not about approval. It's about discipline. That's the key. Fear disguises itself as preparation. Be careful. Preparation is valuable. But endless preparation is procrastination wearing professional clothing. There comes a moment when another book won't help. Another podcast won't help. Another motivational video won't help. Only action will. Only experience will. Only movement will. No one is coming to approve your future. Many adults unknowingly surrender their identity to other people's opinions. They dress according to expectations, choose careers to impress relatives, stay silent to avoid criticism, hide ambition to appear humble. They slowly become strangers to themselves, not because someone forced them, because they handed over the steering wheel. The tragedy isn't rejection. The tragedy is self-abandonment. Every day you silence your own voice to satisfy someone else's expectations. You move further away from the person you were capable of becoming. You don't need their permission. Remember something important. The people criticizing your decisions often aren't living the life you want. The people doubting your discipline often lack discipline themselves. The people warning you against taking risks frequently regret the risks they never took. Should you ignore all advice? No. Listen carefully. But decide independently. Wisdom gathers information. Discipline makes decisions. There is a difference. You have a choice. One of the greatest freedoms you will ever experience is realizing that other people's opinions are temporary. Their approval changes. Their criticism changes. Their attention changes. If your confidence depends on public opinion, your identity will constantly shake. Build something stronger. Build standards. Standards don't require applause. Standards don't require permission. Standards don't change because someone disagrees. That is why disciplined people appear calm. They are not waiting to be validated. They have already made their decision. Now they simply execute. Think of every meaningful achievement in your life. Learning to walk. Learning to drive. Starting your first job. Speaking to someone you admired. None of those moments came with certainty. You acted despite uncertainty. That same principle still applies today. The next chapter of your life will not begin when fear disappears. It will begin when fear is no longer allowed to vote. Start before confidence arrives. No one is coming to approve your future. You don't need their permission. Repeat those words until they become part of your identity. Every day you wait for someone else's approval is another day your future waits with you. Stop asking if you're allowed. Stop asking if you're ready. Stop asking if people believe in you. Ask only one question. What is the next action? Then take it, immediately, because discipline belongs to those who move before the world applauds them. You have stopped waiting for permission. Now it is time to confront the voice that keeps trying to justify standing still. Chapter 3. Your excuses are your prison. There is a prison that millions of people carry with them every single day. They wake up inside it. They work inside it. They grow old inside it. The bars are invisible. The door is unlocked. Yet they never leave. That prison is made of excuses. The most dangerous thing about excuses is not that they are false. It is that they often sound completely reasonable. That's what makes them so powerful. Excuses feel safe. If excuses were obviously ridiculous, no one would believe them. No one would repeat them. No one would build an entire life around them. But excuses rarely sound foolish. They sound logical. I'm too busy. I'll start when things calm down. I didn't have the opportunities other people had. I'm waiting until I have enough money. I'm waiting until I feel more confident. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm just not naturally disciplined. Each sentence contains enough truth to feel believable, and that is exactly why they become dangerous. An excuse doesn't have to be completely false to keep you trapped. It only has to delay your next action. That's the key. Every excuse offers something comforting. It protects your ego. It shields you from failure. It allows you to believe that your future problems are caused by circumstances rather than choices. For a moment, that feels good. You don't have to confront your fears. You don't have to risk embarrassment. You don't have to admit that you've been avoiding the work. But comfort has a price. Every excuse buys temporary relief by selling a piece of your future. Excuses feel safe. Success rarely disappears overnight. It disappears one excuse at a time. One skipped workout. One delayed conversation. One postponed project. One promise broken to yourself. None of those moments seem significant, but they accumulate. Habits are not built in dramatic moments. They are built through ordinary decisions repeated every day. The same is true for excuses. Repeat an excuse long enough, and it becomes your identity. Eventually, you stop saying, "I can't today." You begin saying, "I'm just not that kind of person." That sentence is one of the most dangerous lies you can ever tell yourself, because identity follows behavior. Not the other way around. You have a choice. Imagine two people. Both grew up in the same neighborhood. Both came from families that struggled financially. Both attended average schools. Both faced rejection. Both experienced disappointment. At first, their stories look identical, but years later, their lives look completely different. What happened? The first person says, "My past explains why I can't." The second says, "My past explains why I must." One sees history as a sentence. The other sees history as motivation. One spends years explaining. The other spends years building. The circumstances were similar. The response was different. That's the key. Results don't care about reasons. Think about that carefully. The market doesn't care why you didn't develop your skills. Your body doesn't care why you skipped your workouts. Your savings account doesn't care why you delayed investing. Time doesn't care why you waited. Reality responds to actions, not intentions, not explanations, not promises. Actions. Results don't care about reasons. This may sound harsh. It is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to free you. Because once you understand that reality rewards action alone, you stop wasting energy defending your excuses. Instead, you begin asking a better question. What can I do today? Not next month. Not when life becomes easier. Today. That question changes everything. Many people believe they need better circumstances before they can become disciplined. But discipline was never created by perfect conditions. It was created in imperfect ones. The student who studies after working a full shift. The parent who exercises before the children wake up. the entrepreneur who builds a business after everyone else has gone to bed, the writer who writes one page despite feeling uninspired. These people are not free from excuses. They simply refuse to obey them. Excuses feel safe. Action feels uncomfortable. Growth always chooses discomfort. Every excuse whispers the same promise. Protect yourself. Wait a little longer. Tomorrow will be easier. Tomorrow rarely becomes easier. Tomorrow simply becomes another version of today if nothing changes. That is why disciplined people distrust their own excuses. When they hear themselves saying, "I don't have time," they ask, "What am I doing with the time I already have?" When they hear, "I'm not ready," they ask, "What action would make me more ready?" When they hear, "I'm afraid," they ask, "What happens if I stay afraid forever?" Notice the pattern. They challenge the excuse instead of accepting it. That's the key. You should do the same. Every time an excuse appears, pause. Examine it. Ask whether it is protecting your future or protecting your comfort. Most of the time, it is protecting comfort. Comfort is seductive because it never argues. It simply invites you to stay exactly where you are. Stay in the same routine. Stay with the same habits. Stay with the same results. Comfort says, you can always start tomorrow. Discipline answers, start today. Results don't care about reasons. There is another hidden danger. Excuses spread. Spend enough time around people who constantly blame the economy, their boss, their family, or bad luck. And you begin borrowing their language. Soon, their excuses become your excuses. Their limitations become your limitations. Be careful who teaches you how to think, because thinking becomes behavior. Behavior becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. You have a choice. Surround yourself with people who ask difficult questions, people who challenge you, people who remind you of your responsibility instead of validating every excuse. Those people may feel uncomfortable. Good. Growth is uncomfortable. You do not need more people who make excuses sound reasonable. You need more people who remind you that action is possible. Some listeners may be thinking, but my circumstances really are difficult. Perhaps they are. No one is denying your struggle. Pain is real. Loss is real. Trauma is real. Unfairness is real. Acknowledging those realities does not require surrendering your future. There is an enormous difference between having a reason and making that reason your identity. Your past may explain you. It does not have to define you. That's the key. There comes a moment in every disciplined life when the conversation changes. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin asking, "What will I do because it happened?" That shift transforms victims into builders. It transforms obstacles into training. It transforms pain into strength. Not overnight, but one decision at a time. Excuses feel safe. Growth feels uncertain. Choose growth. Results don't care about reasons. Remember, every excuse asks you to remain the person you are today. Every action gives you the opportunity to become someone new. Which future are you choosing? Because whether you realize it or not, you're making that decision every single day. Every workout completed despite fatigue. Every difficult conversation held despite fear. Every page written despite doubt. Every skill practiced despite frustration. Those are the moments that quietly rewrite a life. Not because they are dramatic, because they are repeated. Again, and again, and again. You have a choice. Your excuses have never been stronger than your ability to act. They have simply been louder. Today, stop listening. Stop negotiating. Stop explaining. Start moving. One action, then another, then another. Because the prison door has never been locked. You only needed the courage to walk through it. You have learned to recognize your excuses. Now it is time to replace them with something far more reliable than emotion or motivation. Chapter 4. Discipline replaces rescue. Most people spend their lives searching for something that never arrives. The perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect mood, the perfect wave of motivation that finally changes everything. They wake up each morning asking themselves one question: do I feel like doing it today? That single question quietly destroys countless dreams, because feelings are unreliable. Motivation is unpredictable. Emotion changes with the weather. Discipline does not. That is the difference. Discipline is self-rescue. Understand this before anything else. Motivation is an emotion. Discipline is a decision. One depends on circumstances. The other creates circumstances. That's the key. Think back to every time you felt inspired. Maybe you watched a motivational video, read an incredible book, heard an unforgettable speech. For a few hours, you felt unstoppable. You promised yourself this time would be different. You were going to wake up early, exercise every day, read every night, save money, build your business, become the person you always imagined. Then life happened. Work became stressful. You slept poorly. An unexpected problem appeared. Your energy disappeared, and with it, your motivation. Nothing was wrong with your dream. The problem was that your dream depended on a feeling. Feelings fade. Systems remain. Discipline is self-rescue. There is a reason disciplined people appear almost boring. They rarely wait for inspiration. They simply follow their routine. The world sees the finished result. It assumes extraordinary willpower, but extraordinary people are often following ordinary systems. They wake up at the same time. They train at the same time. They work at the same time. They read at the same time. They sleep at the same time. Not because every day feels exciting, because the decision has already been made. The fewer decisions you leave to emotion, the more consistent your life becomes. That's the key. Imagine two people who both decide to get stronger. The first waits until they feel motivated. Some weeks they train 6 days. Other weeks they disappear completely. Their progress comes in emotional bursts. The second person follows a schedule. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. No negotiation. Some workouts feel amazing. Others feel terrible. It doesn't matter. They show up anyway. 1 year later, the difference is enormous. Not because one had more talent, because one trusted emotion, the other trusted a system. Consistency beats intensity. Remember that sentence. It is one of the most important lessons in this audiobook. People love dramatic effort. They admire extreme transformations. They celebrate the overnight success. But real change rarely looks dramatic. Real change looks repetitive. It looks ordinary. It looks almost invisible. A single workout changes very little. 100 workouts change everything. One healthy meal is insignificant. 1,000 healthy meals create a different body. One page of reading seems meaningless. 1,000 pages create a different mind. Small actions become a different life. Our brains naturally chase intensity. We want immediate results, immediate rewards, immediate proof that our effort matters. But discipline teaches a different language. It teaches patience. It teaches repetition. It teaches delayed gratification. The seed does not become a tree overnight. Yet every day it grows beneath the surface. Your habits work the same way. Progress is often invisible before it becomes obvious. Many people quit because they cannot see what is already happening. That's the key. Think about brushing your teeth. You probably don't wake up every morning feeling deeply inspired to do it. You don't search for motivation. You don't negotiate. You simply do it. Why? Because it became automatic. Now imagine if exercise became that automatic. Imagine if saving money became that automatic. Imagine if reading became that automatic. Imagine if keeping promises to yourself became that automatic. Your life would transform without requiring constant motivation. That is exactly what disciplined people build. Automatic behaviors, invisible systems, reliable routines. Discipline is self-rescue. There is another mistake people make. They confuse intensity with commitment. They believe success requires heroic effort every single day. It doesn't. Success requires sustainable effort. Consider someone trying to read 50 books in 1 month. They begin with excitement. For a week, they read for hours. Soon, they become exhausted. Eventually, they quit entirely. Now compare them to someone who reads 10 pages every day. 10 pages feels almost insignificant. But after 1 year, thousands of pages, dozens of books, a completely different level of knowledge. Consistency beats intensity. The same principle applies to money. Many people dream about becoming wealthy. Few people consistently save. They wait until they earn more, until next year, until life becomes easier. Disciplined people think differently. They automate good behavior. A small amount invested every month, repeated, again and again. Years later, people call them lucky. Luck had very little to do with it. Repetition did. Small actions become a different life. Your future is not built by occasional moments of greatness. It is built by ordinary moments repeated with extraordinary consistency. You have a choice. You can continue chasing emotional highs, or you can build systems that work even on your worst days. Ask yourself a simple question. What happens when motivation disappears? If your answer is, I stop working, then motivation has become your master. Disciplined people answer differently. When motivation disappears, the routine begins. That is freedom, because now your progress no longer depends on your emotions. Your emotions become passengers. Discipline becomes the driver. That's the key. Notice how professional athletes train. They don't ask whether they feel inspired. The competition does not wait for their mood. The season does not pause because they are tired. Their schedule demands consistency. So they build a life around consistency. The same is true for musicians, writers, doctors, pilots, craftsmen. Elite performers understand something most people never learn. The routine is the performance. By the time the public sees excellence, the work has already been completed thousands of times in private. There are no miracles. Only repetitions nobody applauded. Discipline is self-rescue. Perhaps you have been waiting for someone to save you. A mentor, a spouse, a friend, a better boss, a lucky opportunity. Those things can certainly help, but none of them can replace your habits. No mentor can exercise for you. No friend can build your character. No opportunity can force you to stay disciplined. Eventually, every rescue must become self-rescue. That is why routines are so powerful. Every healthy habit becomes another promise you keep to yourself. Every completed task strengthens your identity. Every consistent action whispers the same message. I can trust myself. Confidence is not built through positive thinking. It is built through repeated evidence. You become confident because you repeatedly do difficult things. You become reliable because you repeatedly honor your commitments. You become disciplined because you repeatedly choose action over emotion. Small actions become a different life. Think about where you will be 5 years from now, not because of one extraordinary decision, because of today's routine, tomorrow's routine, next week's routine, the routines no one celebrates, the routines that feel boring, the routines that quietly shape your destiny. Never underestimate the power of ordinary days. Most extraordinary lives are simply ordinary days repeated with extraordinary discipline. Consistency beats intensity. Repeat that every morning. Repeat it when you feel tired. Repeat it when motivation disappears. Repeat it until your actions believe it. Because your future will never be rescued by another burst of inspiration. It will be built by quiet discipline, practiced long after excitement has disappeared. Discipline is self-rescue. The rescue you have been waiting for has always been hidden inside your daily habits. Now that you understand how discipline replaces motivation, it is time to prepare for something even more important. Building strength before life forces you to need it. Chapter 5. Build yourself. Before the crisis comes. There is one mistake that almost everyone makes. They prepare after the problem appears. They save money after they lose their job. They exercise after the doctor delivers bad news. They repair their relationship after trust has already been broken. They learn new skills after becoming replaceable. By then, they are no longer preparing. They are surviving. There is a difference. Strong people understand a simple principle. Strength is built before it's needed. That's the key. Think about a firefighter. A firefighter does not learn how to use the equipment while the building is burning. The training happens long before the emergency. The drills are repeated again and again. Not because disaster is guaranteed, but because if disaster comes, preparation will decide the outcome. Life works exactly the same way. The problem is that most people mistake calm seasons for permanent safety. When life feels comfortable, they stop preparing. When money is flowing, they stop saving. When health is good, they stop exercising. When relationships feel stable, they stop investing time. When work feels secure, they stop learning. Then one unexpected event changes everything. Preparation creates freedom. Life is unpredictable. That is not pessimism. It is reality. You cannot predict every challenge, but you can prepare for many of them, and preparation changes everything. Imagine two people working at the same company. Both earn similar salaries. Both have similar responsibilities. For years, one spends every dollar they earn. The other quietly builds an emergency fund. Neither knows what tomorrow will bring. Then the company announces layoffs. Suddenly, both face the same crisis. One feels panic. The other feels pressure, but not panic. Why? Because preparation bought time. Preparation bought options. Preparation bought peace. Money itself did not create freedom. Preparation did. Preparation creates freedom. The same lesson applies to your body. Many people believe health is something they can always rebuild later. I'll exercise next month. I'll eat better next year. I'm too busy right now. Years pass. The body remembers every decision, every skipped workout, every late night, every unhealthy habit. Eventually, the body begins presenting the bill. By then, rebuilding becomes much harder. Disciplined people think differently. They train before they feel weak. They rest before they collapse. They care for their bodies before illness forces them to. Strength is built before it's needed. Physical fitness is about far more than appearance. It is insurance. Insurance against weakness. Insurance against aging. Insurance against unexpected hardship. A strong body carries stress differently. It recovers faster. It adapts faster. It endures longer. Every workout is a deposit into your future. You may not notice the return today, but one day you will. That's the key. Now consider emotional resilience. Most people do not think about emotional strength until life knocks them down. A relationship ends. A loved one dies. A business fails. A dream collapses. Suddenly, they realize they have never trained their mind to endure difficulty. Emotional resilience is no different from physical strength. It is built through repetition. Every time you choose patience instead of anger, every time you stay calm instead of reacting, every time you solve a problem instead of blaming someone else, you're strengthening your emotional muscles. One day, life will test those muscles. The question is not whether the test will come. The question is whether you will already be prepared. Future problems are solved today. Think about careers. Technology changes. Industries evolve. Entire professions disappear. Yet millions of people continue believing that yesterday's skills will protect tomorrow's future. They stop learning. They stop growing. They stop adapting. Then they are shocked when someone younger, faster, or more skilled replaces them. The replacement did not happen overnight. It happened one neglected skill at a time. Disciplined people remain students forever. They read. They practice. They ask questions. They improve. Not because someone demands it, because they understand that preparation never becomes wasted effort. Preparation creates opportunity long before opportunity arrives. You have a choice. You can prepare because life is comfortable, or you can prepare because life has become painful. The preparation is the same. Only the price changes. One is proactive. The other is desperate. Choose wisely. There is a reason military organizations spend countless hours practicing situations they hope never happen. Pilots repeatedly train for emergencies they may never experience. Surgeons rehearse procedures before entering the operating room. Professional athletes practice thousands of times before one championship game. None of these people expect perfection. They expect pressure, and they prepare accordingly. Why should your life be different? Strength is built before it's needed. Many people secretly believe they will somehow rise to the occasion when life becomes difficult. Reality tells a different story. You do not rise to your expectations. You fall to the level of your preparation. Remember that. When pressure arrives, you don't magically become disciplined. You reveal the discipline you have already built. When crisis comes, your habits take over. If your habit is panic, you panic. If your habit is avoidance, you avoid. If your habit is action, you act. The crisis simply exposes what was already inside you. That's the key. Preparation is often invisible. Nobody applauds you for building savings. Nobody celebrates you for reading another chapter of a book. Nobody notices when you wake up early to exercise. Nobody congratulates you for practicing emotional control during an ordinary conversation. That is why so few people stay committed. The rewards are delayed. The recognition is delayed. The benefits are delayed. But delayed does not mean absent. Seeds grow underground long before anyone sees the tree. Your preparation works the same way. Every disciplined decision strengthens a future version of yourself you have not yet met. Future problems are solved today. Ask yourself this question. If your life changed dramatically tomorrow, would today's habits support you or betray you? If you lost your income, could your financial discipline protect you? If your health declined, would your physical discipline help you recover? If criticism suddenly increased, would your emotional discipline keep you steady? If your career disappeared, would your skills create new opportunities? These questions are uncomfortable. Good. Uncomfortable questions produce honest answers. Honest answers produce preparation. Preparation creates freedom. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is reducing the number of emergencies in your life. Most emergencies are not truly unexpected. They are neglected responsibilities that quietly grew larger. Debt ignored. Health neglected. Skills forgotten. Relationships taken for granted. Small problems become large crises when ignored long enough. Disciplined people solve problems while they are still small. That is one of their greatest advantages. They understand that prevention is almost always easier than recovery. You have a choice. Start building now. Not because disaster is guaranteed, but because uncertainty is. Life will surprise you. People will disappoint you. Markets will change. Your body will age. Circumstances will shift. None of those realities should frighten you. They should prepare you. The strongest people are rarely the luckiest. They are simply the most prepared. They quietly build before anyone notices. They strengthen themselves while everyone else waits. Then, when difficulty arrives, they appear calm. Others call it confidence. Others call it talent. Others call it luck. They know the truth. It was preparation all along. Strength is built before it's needed. Preparation creates freedom. Future problems are solved today. Repeat those words until they become part of your identity. Every action you take today is either preparing you for tomorrow or making tomorrow more difficult. Choose preparation. Choose discipline. Choose the version of yourself that refuses to wait for crisis before deciding to grow. Because the strongest people are not those who survive every storm. They are the ones who built the shelter long before the clouds appeared. You have learned to prepare before life demands it. Now the next step is even deeper. Learning to stop depending on other people for your emotional stability. Chapter 6. Become emotionally independent. One of the greatest mistakes a person can make is handing someone else the keys to their emotional life. The moment your happiness depends on another person's approval, your peace is no longer yours. The moment your confidence depends on being praised, your confidence becomes fragile. The moment your self-worth depends on being noticed, you become a prisoner of attention. That is not freedom. That is emotional dependence. And emotional dependence is one of the quietest forms of weakness. Own your emotions. Most people don't realize they're doing it. They wake up in a good mood because someone complimented them yesterday. Then one critical comment ruins their entire week. A message goes unanswered, and they begin questioning their value. Someone else gets promoted, and suddenly they feel like a failure. A relationship changes, and they lose their sense of identity. Notice what happened. Nothing inside them actually changed. Only someone else's behavior changed. Yet their emotional world collapsed. That's the key. When another person controls your emotional state, they possess more power over your life than you do. Think about how often people say things like, "They made me angry." "They made me feel worthless." "They ruined my day." "They broke my confidence." Listen carefully to those sentences. Every one of them gives ownership away, as if another human being has complete authority over your inner world. They don't, unless you allow them to. Own your emotions. This does not mean pretending you never feel pain. It does not mean becoming cold or emotionally numb. It does not mean refusing to love people or care deeply. It means understanding the difference between experiencing an emotion and surrendering your identity to it. Pain is natural. Dependence is optional. You have a choice. Imagine two people receiving exactly the same criticism. The first spends days replaying the words in their mind. They wonder whether everyone secretly agrees. They begin doubting themselves. They lose confidence. They stop taking risks. The criticism becomes their identity. The second person listens carefully. They ask one question. Is there something useful here? If yes, they improve. If no, they move forward. The criticism lasts 5 minutes, not 5 months. Same event, different response, different life. Peace is an inside job. That sentence is simple, but it changes everything. Most people spend years searching for peace in places where peace cannot exist. They search for it in relationships, in money, in status, in social media approval, in promotions, in popularity. Those things may bring temporary pleasure, but they cannot produce lasting peace, because they can all disappear. If your peace depends on something temporary, your peace becomes temporary. Real peace must be built somewhere no one else can reach, inside your own character. That's the key. Many people confuse love with emotional dependence. They believe loving someone means needing them to feel complete. But healthy love is different. Healthy love says, I appreciate you. Emotional dependence says, I cannot function without you. Healthy love creates freedom. Dependence creates fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of abandonment. Fear of disappointment. Fear of losing approval. And fear quietly controls behavior. People stop speaking honestly. They stop setting boundaries. They stop pursuing their own goals, not because they don't know what they want, because they are afraid someone else may not approve. Nobody owes you emotional stability. Read that sentence again. Nobody owes you emotional stability. Not your parents, not your spouse, not your children, not your friends, not your coworkers, not your audience, not strangers on the internet. No one wakes up each morning responsible for protecting your emotional balance. That responsibility belongs to one person, you. This realization may feel uncomfortable. Good. Responsibility always creates freedom. Imagine carrying a cup filled to the very top with water. Every bump spills it. Every movement creates a mess. That is how many people live emotionally. Every criticism spills them. Every disagreement spills them. Every inconvenience spills them. Every delay spills them. Disciplined people build a deeper container. Not because life becomes easier, because they become steadier. Own your emotions. How do you build emotional independence? You begin by separating facts from stories. The fact is, someone didn't return your phone call. The story is, they don't care about me. The fact is, you were rejected for a promotion. The story is, I'll never be successful. The fact is, someone criticized your work. The story is, I'm not good enough. Most suffering is created not by facts, but by the stories we immediately attach to them. Disciplined people interrupt those stories. They pause. They breathe. They ask, what do I actually know? That pause changes everything. That's the key. Another habit of emotionally independent people is that they keep promises to themselves. This may seem unrelated. It isn't. Every promise you keep strengthens self-trust. Every promise you break weakens it. When you trust yourself, you need less reassurance from other people. When you know you'll handle difficulties, uncertainty becomes less frightening. Confidence grows from evidence, not compliments. Every early morning, every completed workout, every difficult conversation, every disciplined decision. These actions quietly tell your mind, I can rely on myself. That sentence becomes stronger than any praise another person could ever offer. Peace is an inside job. Consider social media. Never before have so many people measured their worth through numbers: likes, followers, comments, views. One post performs well. Confidence rises. The next post receives less attention. Confidence collapses. Nothing meaningful about the person changed. Only the numbers changed. Yet millions allow algorithms to decide how valuable they feel. That is emotional outsourcing. Do not hand strangers the authority to define your identity. Your standards must become stronger than public opinion. You have a choice. You can build your identity on applause, or you can build it on character. Applause is temporary. Character remains. People will misunderstand you. People will criticize you. People will leave. People will disappoint you. Sometimes they will do all of those things despite your best intentions. If your emotional survival depends on controlling other people's behavior, your life will always feel unstable. Control what you can. Release what you cannot. That is emotional maturity. Nobody owes you emotional stability. There is another powerful shift that disciplined people make. Instead of asking, "How do I make everyone like me?" they ask, "Am I living according to my values?" Notice the difference. One question seeks approval. The other seeks integrity. Integrity is infinitely more stable, because your values stay with you even when people walk away. That's the key. You cannot prevent disappointment. You cannot prevent rejection. You cannot prevent betrayal. Those experiences belong to every human life. But you can prevent those experiences from destroying your identity. Your worth was never supposed to be determined by someone else's opinion. Your peace was never supposed to depend on another person's mood. Your future was never supposed to be controlled by external validation. Own your emotions. Some people will celebrate your success. Others will resent it. Some will support your dreams. Others will question them. Some will stay. Others will leave. Let them make their choices. You make yours. Your responsibility is not managing everyone else's emotions. Your responsibility is mastering your own. Peace is an inside job. Repeat those words whenever life feels uncertain. Repeat them when criticism arrives. Repeat them when praise arrives, because praise can become just as addictive as criticism is painful. Remain steady. Remain grounded. Remain responsible. The strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It is the one whose emotional state cannot be purchased by compliments or destroyed by insults. That kind of strength is built from the inside. Day after day. Choice after choice. Nobody owes you emotional stability. You have a choice. Choose self-respect over approval. Choose character over popularity. Choose discipline over emotional dependence. When your peace comes from within, the world loses its power to shake you. And when you finally become emotionally independent, you discover something extraordinary. The person you have been relying on all along was always enough. You have learned to master your inner world. Now it is time to extend that responsibility to every decision you make. Chapter 7. Own every decision. There is a sentence that separates children from adults, not by age, not by experience, not by intelligence, by responsibility. The sentence is simple. I own it. Those 3 words are heavier than they appear, because the moment you say them, you stop searching for someone else to blame. You stop waiting for someone else to fix what only you can change. You stop living as a passenger. You become the driver. Own it. Most people believe responsibility means accepting blame. That is only half the story. Real responsibility means owning both your victories and your failures. When you succeed, don't call it luck. Recognize the discipline that got you there. When you fail, don't call yourself a victim. Recognize the decision that can move you forward. Responsibility is not about carrying guilt. It is about carrying power. That's the key. Imagine two employees who lose the same promotion. The first spends weeks complaining. My manager plays favorites. The company doesn't appreciate me. The system is unfair. Perhaps some of those things are true, but after months of complaining, nothing changes. Now imagine the second employee. They feel disappointed. They allow themselves one evening to process it. Then they ask a different question. What could I have done differently? Maybe they need better communication skills. Maybe they should have taken more initiative. Maybe they should have learned another skill. Maybe they simply need to find a company where their strengths are valued. Notice the difference. One person searches for someone to blame. The other searches for something to improve. One stays stuck. The other grows. Blame delays growth. This does not mean pretending every outcome is your fault. Life is more complicated than that. Sometimes people betray you. Sometimes opportunities disappear. Sometimes bad luck exists. Sometimes injustice is real. You cannot control every event, but you can always control your response. And your response determines your future far more than the event itself. You have a choice. Ask yourself this question every time something goes wrong. What part of this belongs to me? Not all of it. Your part. Maybe it is 10%. Maybe it is 90%. Find your part. Own your part. Improve your part. Because that is the only part you have the power to change. Responsibility creates freedom. Many people misunderstand freedom. They believe freedom means having no obligations, no commitments, no accountability. But the opposite is true. The person who refuses responsibility becomes dependent on everyone else, dependent on luck, dependent on circumstances, dependent on other people's decisions. The responsible person builds options. They become stronger, more capable, more adaptable. That is real freedom. Own it. Think about driving a car. When you grip the steering wheel, you accept responsibility for the direction. You cannot blame the road for every wrong turn. You cannot blame the weather for every poor decision. You pay attention. You adjust. You remain alert. Life works the same way. The steering wheel belongs in your hands, not in someone else's. That's the key. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is conducting a personal review after every setback. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What did this teach me?" Instead of saying, "I failed," say, "I learned." Those two sentences create completely different futures. Failure becomes final only when learning stops. Otherwise, it becomes education. Every mistake becomes tuition instead of trauma. Consider the people you admire most. The entrepreneur whose business succeeded. The athlete who became a champion. The leader who earned respect. The writer whose books changed lives. Do you think they avoided mistakes? Of course not. They simply paid attention to them. They treated every mistake like expensive tuition. No one enjoys paying tuition, but everyone who grows pays it. Some pay with money. Others pay with embarrassment. Others pay with rejection. Others pay with lost opportunities. The disciplined person asks one question: what did this cost teach me? That's the key. Imagine touching a hot stove as a child. The pain teaches you something. The lesson becomes more valuable than the discomfort. Now imagine making a financial mistake, or trusting the wrong person, or starting a business that fails, or choosing the wrong career. Those experiences hurt. But pain without reflection becomes trauma. Pain with reflection becomes wisdom. The difference is responsibility. Own it. There is another danger in blaming others. Blame feels productive. It feels like action. You can spend hours explaining why someone else caused your problems. You can gather evidence. You can convince your friends. You can even be completely correct. Yet your life remains exactly where it was. Being right is not always the same as moving forward. Sometimes the greatest victory is not proving who was wrong. It is deciding who you will become next. Blame delays growth. Notice how successful people speak. When a project fails, they ask, "What can we improve?" When a relationship struggles, they ask, "What could I have done better?" When a goal remains unfinished, they ask, "What system needs to change?" Their language always points toward action. Not because they enjoy criticism, because they understand something powerful. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your future. Ask powerless questions, and you receive powerless answers. Ask responsible questions, and you discover possibilities. Responsibility creates freedom. There will be moments when you are treated unfairly. Do not become unfair to yourself by allowing those moments to define your identity. There will be people who lie, people who disappoint you, people who fail you. Do not let their behavior become your excuse to stop growing. Every day you spend blaming yesterday is another day tomorrow waits. You have a choice. Many people carry old failures for years. They replay conversations, relive mistakes, punish themselves repeatedly. That is not responsibility. That is self-condemnation. Responsibility is honest. Self-condemnation is hopeless. One says, "I made a mistake." The other says, "I am a mistake." Never confuse the two. You are not your worst decision. You're the person deciding what to do after it. Every mistake becomes tuition instead of trauma. Think about how pilots train. Every mistake is carefully analyzed, not to shame the pilot, to improve the system. Medicine works the same way. Professional sports work the same way. Elite organizations study mistakes because mistakes contain information. You should do the same. Stop hiding from your failures. Study them. Write them down. Ask what patterns you notice. Ask what habits created them. Ask what standards would prevent them. Your mistakes become teachers the moment your ego stops arguing with them. That's the key. One day you will look back at a decision that once filled you with regret. You will realize something surprising. Without that painful lesson, you would not possess the wisdom you now have. Without that failure, you would still be making the same careless choices. Without that disappointment, you would never have become stronger. Growth often arrives wearing the clothes of failure. Own it. Own your victories. Own your weaknesses. Own your habits. Own your standards. Own your future, because the moment you stop blaming the world, you finally gain the power to change your place within it. Blame delays growth. Responsibility creates freedom. Repeat those words every time life becomes difficult. Repeat them every time you are tempted to point outward instead of looking inward. Every decision you make is writing the story of your life. Write it deliberately. Write it honestly. Write it with courage. Because no one else is holding the pen. You are. You have learned to take complete ownership of your life. Now it is time to become the kind of person whose strength no longer serves only yourself, but becomes a source of stability for everyone around you. Chapter 8. Become the person others depend on. At the beginning of this audiobook, you learned one difficult truth. No one is coming to save you. Now it is time for the next transformation. Become the person who saves the situation. Become the person people can rely on. There is a profound difference between asking, "Who will help me?" and asking, "How can I become someone others trust?" That single shift changes your identity. It changes the way you think, the way you work, the way you lead, the way you live. Be the anchor. Most people spend their lives searching for dependable people. The disciplined person decides to become one. That decision carries enormous power, because dependable people are rare. Not flashy people, not talented people, not charismatic people. Dependable people. The world has plenty of individuals who make promises. It has far fewer who consistently keep them. Reliability is rare. Think about the people you trust most. Perhaps it's a parent, a teacher, a coach, a friend, a mentor. Notice something. You probably don't trust them because they gave the best speeches. You trust them because they showed up. Again, and again, and again. Trust is not built through dramatic moments. Trust is built through repeated evidence. That's the key. Every promise you keep becomes another brick. Every promise you break removes one. Eventually, people stop listening to what you say. They simply watch what you do. Your actions speak before your words. There is a reason true leaders often speak less than everyone else. They understand something many people never learn. Leadership is credibility. Credibility is consistency. Without consistency, words become noise. Imagine two managers leading the same team. The first constantly gives motivational speeches. They promise support. They promise accountability. They promise excellence. But they arrive late. Miss deadlines. Ignore problems. Disappear when things become difficult. The second manager says much less. They arrive early. Finish what they start. Accept responsibility. Help when needed. Stay calm during pressure. Months later, which leader would people willingly follow? Not the loudest, the most dependable. Reliability is rare. The same principle applies inside a family. Children rarely become what their parents say. They become what they repeatedly observe. A parent who says, "Honesty matters," but constantly breaks promises teaches dishonesty. A parent who quietly keeps commitments teaches responsibility without saying a word. Example always defeats instruction. Your actions speak before your words. This is why disciplined people understand that every ordinary day matters. Every time you arrive when you said you would. Every time you finish what you promised. Every time you admit a mistake. Every time you stay calm during conflict. You're building a reputation. Reputation is simply consistency observed over time. You have a choice. You can become someone people hope will help, or someone they know will help. Those are not the same. Hope depends on possibility. Trust depends on evidence. Become evidence. Be the anchor. Picture a ship caught in a violent storm. The waves are unpredictable. The wind changes direction. Everything feels unstable. What keeps the ship from drifting endlessly? The anchor. The anchor does not stop the storm. It creates stability inside it. Your presence should have the same effect. Strong people do not eliminate life's chaos. They remain steady while chaos exists. That steadiness becomes contagious. People begin relaxing because you remain calm. They think clearly because you think clearly. They solve problems because you refuse to panic. That is leadership, not control. Stability. That's the key. Many people want influence. Few people earn it. Influence cannot be demanded. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be claimed. It is given. And it is given to those who consistently demonstrate responsibility. People naturally listen to individuals whose lives match their words. Integrity creates influence, not volume. Think about a trusted coworker. When a difficult project appears, everyone immediately thinks of them, not because they are the smartest person in the room, because they finish what they start, because they remain composed, because they solve problems instead of creating them, because they can be counted on. Over time, reliability becomes more valuable than brilliance. Reliability is rare. Many careers have been built not on extraordinary intelligence, but on extraordinary dependability. Companies can teach technical skills. Teaching character is much harder. Anyone can have a productive week. Reliable people have productive years. Anyone can impress during an interview. Reliable people continue showing up after the excitement disappears. Discipline always outlasts enthusiasm. You have a choice. Ask yourself a difficult question. When people hear your name, what is the first word they associate with you? Dependable? Late? Prepared? Unreliable? Calm? Emotional? Focused? Distracted? That answer has been created by your habits, not by your intentions. Fortunately, habits can change, which means your reputation can change. One decision at a time. Your actions speak before your words. There is another benefit to becoming dependable. Your confidence changes. Many people try to build confidence by repeating positive affirmations. Disciplined people build confidence differently. They become trustworthy in their own eyes. When you repeatedly keep promises to yourself, something remarkable happens. You stop wondering whether you're capable. You already know, because you have evidence. Confidence is memory. It is the memory of promises kept. It is the memory of difficult days survived. It is the memory of consistent effort. That confidence cannot be given by another person. It must be earned. Be the anchor. Imagine a mentor whose advice changed your life. Was it only their knowledge that inspired you? Probably not. It was the life behind the advice. People listen more carefully when the messenger embodies the message. That is why your character matters. People may admire your success, but they trust your consistency. Trust always has greater long-term value than admiration. Admiration creates attention. Trust creates lasting influence. That's the key. One of the greatest compliments you can ever receive is not, "You're talented," or "You're brilliant," or "You're successful." It is this: "I knew I could count on you." Those words cannot be purchased. They cannot be faked. They are earned over thousands of ordinary decisions. Every completed responsibility, every honest conversation, every difficult commitment honored, every moment when quitting would have been easier. These moments quietly shape your identity. They also shape the lives of everyone around you, because consistency spreads. Your discipline gives others permission to become disciplined. Your calm gives others permission to remain calm. Your reliability raises the standard for everyone who works beside you. Leadership often begins without a title. It begins with example. Reliability is rare. Remember that. The world remembers dependable people. Families remember dependable people. Communities remember dependable people, not because they demanded attention, because they quietly carried responsibility when others looked away. Be that person, not for recognition, not for applause, because that is who you choose to become. Own your commitments. Honor your word. Arrive prepared. Finish what you start. Remain calm when others panic. Speak honestly. Act consistently. Then repeat those behaviors until they become your identity. Your actions speak before your words. Every day, you are either increasing or decreasing the trust others place in you. Choose wisely. Because trust, once earned, opens doors that talent alone never can. And trust begins with becoming someone who can first depend on themselves. Only then can others truly depend on you. Be the anchor. Reliability is rare. Your actions speak before your words. Repeat those words every morning, not as motivation, as a standard, because the strongest people are not remembered for what they promised. They are remembered for what they consistently delivered. You have become someone others can rely on. Now there is only one final shift before your complete transformation. Stop hoping your future will appear, and start building it with your own hands. Chapter 9. Stop hoping. Start building hope is beautiful. It gives people courage. It helps them survive difficult seasons. It reminds them that tomorrow can be better than today. But hope alone has never built a business. Hope has never strengthened a weak body. Hope has never written a book. Hope has never repaired a broken relationship. Hope has never changed a life. Action does. That is the difference most people never learn. Hope is a beginning. It is never a strategy. Build today. Look around, and you will notice something strange. Millions of people have extraordinary dreams. They dream of financial freedom, a healthy body, meaningful work, strong relationships, a peaceful mind. There is nothing wrong with dreaming. The problem begins when dreams become substitutes for action. Some people spend years imagining the future they want. Very few spend years building it. The gap between those two groups becomes enormous over time. That's the key. Fantasy is attractive because it costs nothing. You can imagine becoming successful while lying on the couch. You can picture yourself confident without facing rejection. You can dream about writing a book without writing a single page. Your imagination gives you the emotional reward immediately. Reality demands that you earn it. This is why fantasy can become addictive. It feels like progress without requiring progress. Build today. Consider someone who wants to become financially independent. They watch videos about investing, read books about wealth, listen to podcasts every morning. They know every financial principle, yet they never create a budget, never invest, never increase their income, never change their spending habits. Their knowledge grows, their life does not. Now compare them with someone who knows less but acts more. They save a small amount every month, learn one new skill every year, invest consistently, avoid unnecessary debt. 10 years later, who wins? Not the person with more information, the person with more execution. The work is the shortcut. Many people search endlessly for the fastest path, the secret technique, the hidden formula, the perfect productivity system, the magical breakthrough. They spend years searching for shortcuts while avoiding the road itself. Eventually, they discover something disappointing. The work was always the shortcut. There was never another path. That's the key. Think about building a house. No one places the roof before laying the foundation. No one expects the walls to appear overnight. Every brick matters. One brick seems insignificant. 1,000 bricks become a home. Life follows the same law. One workout appears small. 1,000 workouts transform a body. One conversation seems ordinary. 1,000 honest conversations transform relationships. One page appears meaningless. 1,000 pages create wisdom. Progress compounds. That word matters. Compounds. Most people underestimate what consistency can accomplish because daily improvement looks invisible. You save $20 today. Nothing changes. You exercise for 30 minutes. Nothing dramatic happens. You read 10 pages. Life feels exactly the same. So you begin questioning the effort. But compound growth is deceptive. At first, progress is nearly invisible. Then suddenly, everyone notices. They call it overnight success. It never was. It was years of invisible accumulation. Progress compounds. Nature understands this principle perfectly. A tree grows quietly. Roots spread underground. Month after month, almost nothing appears to happen. Yet beneath the surface, an entire structure is developing. When the tree finally becomes visible, people admire its height. Few appreciate the years spent strengthening its roots. Your life works exactly the same way. Character grows underground. Discipline grows underground. Confidence grows underground. One day, the results become visible, but they were built long before anyone noticed. Build today. One of the greatest dangers in modern life is confusing consumption with creation. People consume motivation, consume entertainment, consume information, consume opinions, consume endless content. Then they wonder why nothing changes, because consuming is not creating. Watching someone build is not building. Listening to discipline is not practicing discipline. Reading about courage is not becoming courageous. Knowledge without execution becomes another form of procrastination. The work is the shortcut. You have a choice. Every morning, ask yourself one question. What will I build today? Not, what will I learn? Learning matters, but learning must become building. Perhaps today you build your health. Perhaps you build your savings. Perhaps you build trust. Perhaps you build patience. Perhaps you build a business. Perhaps you simply build the habit of keeping one promise to yourself. Every day is another brick. Never waste a brick. That's the key. Many people become discouraged because they compare their beginning to someone else's middle. They see an experienced athlete, a successful entrepreneur, a respected leader, an accomplished writer. They forget those people also started with uncertainty. They also produced imperfect work. They also doubted themselves. The difference is not perfection. The difference is repetition. Successful people rarely have perfect days. They simply have more completed days. Progress compounds. There will be mornings when the work feels boring. Good. Boredom is not a signal to quit. It is a signal that discipline is replacing excitement. Excitement fades. Habits remain. That is why disciplined people are not addicted to novelty. They are addicted to progress. Even tiny progress, especially tiny progress, because they understand that tiny improvements multiplied over years become extraordinary lives. Imagine placing $1 into a jar every day. One day seems meaningless. 1 week changes little. 1 month still feels small. Continue for years, and the habit becomes substantial. Now imagine replacing the dollar with disciplined actions. 1 phone call, 1 workout, 1 chapter, 1 difficult conversation, 1 promise kept. Those deposits never disappear. They accumulate inside your character. That is wealth no one can steal. Build today. People often ask, when will my hard work finally pay off? The better question is, who am I becoming because of this work? Because sometimes the greatest reward is not the outcome. It is the identity you build along the way. The disciplined person does not simply complete difficult tasks. They become someone capable of completing difficult tasks. That identity changes everything. The work is the shortcut. Remember every chapter you have heard so far. You accepted reality. You stopped waiting for permission. You rejected excuses. You built discipline. You prepared before crisis. You became emotionally independent. You accepted responsibility. You became dependable. None of those lessons promise instant results. They promise something much greater. Transformation. Real transformation is quiet. It happens while nobody is watching, while nobody is applauding, while nobody is impressed. Then one day people ask, "How did you change so much?" They never saw the bricks, only the finished building. That's the key. Never become discouraged because today's effort seems small. Small actions are not weak. They are the language of mastery. Masters do not perform extraordinary actions once. They perform ordinary actions extraordinarily well for an extraordinarily long time. Progress compounds. You have a choice. Continue hoping. Continue waiting. Continue imagining the future you deserve. Or begin building the future you are willing to earn. One path produces wishes. The other produces results. Choose results. Build today. Build when you feel inspired. Build when you feel tired. Build when nobody notices. Build when nobody believes. Build when progress seems invisible. Because every disciplined day strengthens the foundation beneath tomorrow. And one day you will realize something remarkable. The life you once hoped for is no longer a dream. It has become your reality. Not because you wished for it, because you built it. Brick by brick, day by day, decision by decision, build today. Progress compounds. The work is the shortcut. You have now built the habits that create a disciplined life. There is only one final step remaining, not merely changing your actions, but becoming an entirely different person. Chapter 10. Become your own rescue. Everything you have heard in this audiobook leads to one final truth. Not 10 truths, not 10 separate lessons. One truth. No one is coming. Read those words one more time. No one is coming. Not because the world is cruel, not because people don't care, but because your life has always belonged to you. The responsibility has always been yours. The decisions have always been yours. The future has always been yours. The moment you fully accept that reality, something extraordinary happens. You stop waiting. You start building. That is the identity shift that changes everything. You are the answer. Throughout this audiobook, we have dismantled one illusion after another. You accepted reality instead of arguing with it. You stopped waiting for permission. You abandoned excuses. You replaced motivation with discipline. You prepared before the crisis arrived. You became emotionally independent. You owned every decision. You became someone others could rely on. You stopped hoping and started building. Those lessons were never separate. They were pieces of the same identity, the identity of a builder. Victims ask, "Who will save me?" Builders ask, "What can I build next?" Victims wait. Builders work. Victims explain. Builders execute. Victims hope circumstances improve. Builders improve themselves. That's the key. There are only two ways to move through life. You either believe your future is happening to you, or you believe your future is being created by you. The first mindset creates helplessness. The second creates responsibility. Responsibility creates freedom. The moment you stop seeing yourself as the victim of your circumstances, you discover something you never realized you possessed. Choice. You have a choice. Every morning, every conversation, every setback, every opportunity, every disappointment. Choice remains, perhaps not over what happens, but always over who you become. That is where real power lives. You are the answer. Think back to the beginning of this audiobook. Perhaps you believed discipline meant forcing yourself to work harder. Now you know better. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect. It is the decision to become someone your future self can depend on. Every early morning, every promise kept, every difficult conversation, every workout completed, every excuse rejected, every dollar saved, every page read, every act of patience, every moment of responsibility. None of these actions were random. They were votes. Votes for the person you are becoming. Identity is not discovered. Identity is built. That's the key. Many people spend years asking, "Who am I?" A better question is, "What am I repeatedly doing?" Because your repeated actions answer the first question more honestly than your thoughts ever will. If you repeatedly tell the truth, you become honest. If you repeatedly keep your promises, you become dependable. If you repeatedly face discomfort, you become courageous. If you repeatedly choose discipline, you become disciplined. Character is not declared. Character is demonstrated. You become what you repeatedly practice. No one is coming. That sentence should no longer sound frightening. It should sound freeing, because if no one is coming to save you, then you no longer need to wait. You no longer need permission. You no longer need perfect conditions. You no longer need universal approval. You no longer need endless motivation. You simply begin. The rescue has always been available. It was hidden inside your daily choices. Many people spend decades looking for the perfect mentor, the perfect partner, the perfect opportunity, the perfect strategy, the perfect book. Those things can all help, but none of them can replace the person staring back at you in the mirror. You are the only individual who wakes up with you every single day. You are the only person who lives with every decision you make. You are the only person who can choose discipline when nobody else is watching. You are the answer. That does not mean you must walk through life alone. Strong people ask for advice. They accept support. They learn from mentors. They build meaningful relationships. But they never confuse support with dependence. Support can strengthen you. Dependence weakens you. There is a difference. A mentor can teach you. They cannot practice for you. A coach can guide you. They cannot compete for you. A friend can encourage you. They cannot build your character. Eventually, every meaningful transformation becomes personal. Eventually, every road leads back to your own choices. That's the key. Imagine two people standing before the same mountain. Both receive the same map. Both receive the same equipment. Both receive the same instructions. One spends years studying the mountain, talking about the mountain, dreaming about the mountain. The other begins climbing, slowly, awkwardly, sometimes falling, sometimes resting, but always moving. Years later, only one reaches the summit. Knowledge was never the deciding factor. Movement was. That is your life. You already know far more than you consistently practice. Most people do. The gap between knowledge and action is where dreams disappear. Close that gap. One decision at a time. Become the person you've been waiting for. Throughout history, every remarkable life has been built the same way. Not through perfect circumstances, not through perfect confidence, not through perfect luck. Through ordinary decisions repeated with extraordinary consistency. The disciplined person eventually reaches a moment where responsibility becomes automatic. They no longer ask, "Should I?" They simply do. Not because discipline became easier, because discipline became identity. That is the destination, not temporary motivation. Permanent character. Character does not disappear when life becomes difficult. character reveals itself. When the economy struggles, when relationships become complicated, when health is tested, when plans fail, when nobody is watching. Character answers the question, "Who are you now?" And your habits answer that question long before your words do. You are the answer. Look at your life honestly, not with guilt, not with shame, with responsibility. Everything you consistently practice today is creating the life you will experience tomorrow. Every excuse, every disciplined action, every promise, every broken commitment, every repeated thought, every repeated behavior. Nothing is wasted. Everything is shaping you. You have a choice. You always have. The greatest lie people tell themselves is, "I'll become that person someday." Someday is not a day. Someday is often another name for never. Your future identity is being created today, not next year, not after the promotion, not after life becomes easier. Today, become the person you've been waiting for. If you have listened this far, then something inside you already understands this truth. You do not need another reason. You do not need another motivational speech. You do not need another perfect plan. You need one decision, a decision that you will no longer live as someone waiting to be rescued. From this moment forward, become the person who solves problems instead of avoiding them. Become the person who keeps promises instead of making excuses. Become the person who prepares before pressure arrives. Become the person who chooses discipline over comfort. Become the person who builds instead of blames. Become the person who remains calm while others panic. Become the person who acts while others hesitate. Become the person who continues when others quit. Not once, every day. Because identity is never built in one heroic moment. It is built in thousands of ordinary moments. One decision, one habit, one action, repeated. Again, again, again. No one is coming. Do not hear those words as a warning. Hear them as an invitation to stop surrendering your future to luck, an invitation to stop negotiating with excuses, an invitation to stop asking the world for permission to become who you were capable of becoming all along. The person you have been searching for has never been somewhere else. They have been waiting behind every difficult decision you postponed, behind every responsibility you avoided, behind every disciplined action you almost took. Today, stop waiting. Step forward. Take ownership. Build with intention. Live with discipline. Stand with integrity. Move with consistency. And when life becomes difficult, as it inevitably will, remember everything this audiobook has taught you. You accepted reality. You chose discipline over motivation. You prepared before the storm. You mastered your emotions. You owned your decisions. You became dependable. You built instead of hoped. Now there is only one lesson left to remember. You are the answer. No one is coming. Become the person you've been waiting for. When you do, you will discover that the rescue you spent your life searching for was never outside you. It was always waiting to be built, one disciplined choice at a time. You have now heard one message repeated in 10 different ways. No one is coming. No rescue is waiting. No perfect opportunity is hiding around the corner. No future version of yourself will magically appear and fix today's decisions. Everything changes the moment responsibility becomes your identity. When you own your choices, you own your future. When you stop blaming, you start building. When you stop waiting, you finally begin moving. Discipline isn't punishment. It is freedom. Responsibility isn't heavy. It is power. You don't need better circumstances. You need stronger standards. From this moment forward, refuse to wait. Refuse to complain. Refuse to surrender your future to luck. Wake up tomorrow and prove this lesson with one action. Then another. Then another. Because one day you'll look back and realize something extraordinary. The person who finally saved your life was you.